and to kind of try and break the barrier of like solo female travel too.
Yeah.
And for me, and this is not for all solo female travelers. Like for that to happen to me, I was like, okay, I'm not meant for this life.
Oh, that's
like,
sad.
Yeah. I'm Trizzy.
And I'm Leah.
And this is Ticket to Anywhere podcast, bringing you the gear, tools, and tips to equip you for a travel-filled life.
No matter your travel experience or lack thereof, we aim to be your first stop when you're thinking of where to go, how to get there, what to bring, and what to do.
Catch the latest episode every other Wednesday on YouTube or your favorite listening app.
We'd love to connect with you. Find Ticket to Anywhere on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Pinterest, and LinkedIn.
Welcome back to another episode of the Ticket to Anywhere podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Trizzy at TrizzInc.
And your other co-host, Leah, LA in Flight. Today we have a good episode.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Got it off my chest.
It's fun. Yeah. It was, today's a story time episode.
Mm-hmm.
And we've titled it Unexpected Travel Moments That Literally Have Altered Our Brain Chemistry. So when we were brainstorming for this, you know, we've partnered with Rhino, the app that promotes inclusivity, travel experiences, and community. We've partnered with them and taken a look at their Travel Truths campaign, where everyone is talking about pivotal moments or experiences that happened to them while on the road or around the world. And so we wanted to dig deep into our arsenal and look at what has happened to us and stopped us in our tracks. And we kind of narrowed down some of the moments that we thought would be pretty relatable as well to others.
And also like a lesson learned.
Mm-hmm.
And just like you said in the title, unexpected.
Yeah. Some of the things were done or they were said. And it's some of those are situations where like you never think it's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
Until it does.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of therapeutic saying things out loud.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like I doubted myself being like, is this? But like everyone has I was, you know, sometimes I doubted myself being like, I don't know, is this something I could talk about? But everyone has different personal experiences.
Yes. You remember like when like during our brainstorm, I kept changing my stories like, oh, do you think this is good enough? Like I kept asking you.
Mm-hmm. We mainly cut things out because we wanted to keep this to a nice listening length for y'all.
We could talk all day.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah. Yours is all conversational, which is so funny.
Mine's conversational.
Because you're such a social butterfly.
It's because according to Trizzy, because I actually talk to people.
Yeah. I was like, you actually talk to people, so you have all these juicy encounters.
Yeah, you'll hear Trizzy's are things that have happened to her, whereas mine were things that I either overheard or were said to me.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a good mix in there.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And with Rhino's Travel Truth campaign, like they've posted on their social media all these different ones that really inspired us. Like, okay, we got to talk about it.
Yeah.
Like if people are that open, we could be that open too. So we want to hear from you guys in the comments or in our DMs, in our emails, hi@tickettoanywhere.com. Like your travel truth too. Like what happened to you? What altered your brain chemistry? What experiences
Definitely
you had? Yeah.
Yeah, I think there'll be some ones here that you resonate with, but we also want to hear what else has happened.
Yeah.
You know? One big travel truth for me is that I never get Starbucks while I'm on the road, but here I am drinking a Starbucks back home in LA. Friends, and it is
that was a good one.
Is that okay?
That was great.
It's literally a venti iced cinnamon dolce latte with oat milk. I literally never get Starbucks outside of the US.
Same.
Here we are.
Same. But you know, sometimes it's just easy. It's down the road. And I would say
it's the McDonald's of coffee.
I decided on a grande Royal English breakfast tea latte.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically English breakfast with almond milk.
Delicious.
And I think 2 pumps of sugarcane syrup.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it too sweet. Because originally they put 4. And I'm like, damn, 4.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's real sweet. But
yeah, I would give this a 6 out of 10 though. I can make it better.
Oh, okay.
Cheers to another episode. Thank you, Rhino,
Cheers.
our sponsors, and cheers
enjoy
to
this
us.
one. Yeah, cheers to us. Cheers to Rhino. Someone in the Philippines Y'all know I love the Philippines.
She does. We both do.
Yeah. Actually said to me after I said, I was in like the south of Cebu, Moalboal, where it's common to do the sardine run.
Okay.
Get your PADI, your open water diving certificate, whatnot. You know, I was like, oh, I'm going to go to Kawasan Falls and swim around, enjoy the beaches, explore the jungle. And someone actually said to me, what are you doing in the Philippines if you're not scuba diving?
There's tons of things to do, okay? First of all.
Let's break down the cost. Let's break down the cost of scuba diving first off, anywhere in the world. If you want to get certified to scuba dive on your own, 3 days with an instructor, with a group, minimum that's going to cost you $250 US. I don't care if you're in Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Belize. It's going to cost you a minimum of that because you're paying for instructor's time, you're paying for equipment, right?
Yeah.
On top of that, every time you go out for a dive, it's probably like what, 50, 60, 70 US dollars. Doesn't matter what part of the world you're in. Hawaii, it will be even more expensive, right? So to be able to afford that is a privilege.
Yeah.
And quick story, the reason I was actually kind of offended by this person saying, what are you even doing in the Philippines if you don't scuba dive, is because I had actually failed a scuba diving course that I was trying to get certified myself. And by failed, I mean I pulled myself out after day one.
Yeah.
If you listen to our first Philippines episode ever, you'll hear the full story. I pulled myself out after day one. I wasn't feeling confident, so they only charged me for a discovery dive, which was like $60 US at the time. But in my eyes, I had failed the course because I wasn't comfortable in the open water like that. I wasn't comfortable. I didn't feel strong enough to swim with the current. So because that had recently happened like a day or two prior, I was quite offended by this person who did not know me. I met this person in a hostel.
Right.
And they were like, what do you do here in the Philippines? Y'all, I'm Filipino. Like my family is from there. They still have roots there. They have property. They have land. They have houses. And I have like my stepmom's family is there. I have quite a lot of friends around the Philippines. I'm like, there's so much to do in the Philippines besides dive. Also, how many Philippine locals do we think dive in the Philippines out of 120 million people that live over 7,000 islands? How many of them do we think go scuba diving on a weekly basis?
Right.
Let's do that math.
Yeah.
So that moment was actually surprising to me because that person assumed that every traveler or every foreigner that's coming to the Philippines, the only thing they want to do for a month is dive, which couldn't be further than the truth for a lot of people that I know. Diving's a privilege. Diving's expensive.
Yeah.
Diving is rare.
Yeah. And diving is for the able bodies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did he or she say this?
It was a guy.
Did he say this after you had told him that you quote unquote failed? I don't think you failed, first of all.
No, I know. I didn't fail. I pulled myself down. But in my own eyes, I failed. To be honest, I don't exactly remember, but I'm pretty sure that they did not know that story before.
I see.
But I'm like, why would you say that to anybody?
Yeah.
Because like that's also another thing. They didn't know that I was sensitive to me like just pulling out of that course.
Right.
Because if they knew that, do you think they would have said that? We don't know.
Yeah. But still, even for me, who I've never even tried to scuba dive or take a course, I want to, but for you to get into the water, to even think, pay for it, do all that, that's amazing, because I'm still scared of just doing that.
Yeah.
So even for a person like me who didn't experience what you experienced, I still feel offended too, because I love the Philippines and there's tons of things to do out there.
So much to do. I mean, Trizzy goes back more often than I do. Like, she goes every year. You go every year, and we find a billion things to do other than scuba dive.
Yes.
Mainly because you're not certified yet, but that will change, I'm sure.
Yes.
But yeah, it was just such a weird thing to say, and another moment that like literally stopped me in my tracks. I mean, like I said, I was extra sensitive from not completing the course. But at the same time, I'm like, why would you say that to anybody?
Like, no don't be doing that to people.
I know.
Yeah, there's stuff that
it's just it's something for something that's so privileged, like traveling itself. I was like shocked.
Yeah.
And like in particular, like I said, I was in Cebu. You can go canyoneering, you can go watch the whale sharks, you can take a motorbike and go to all the waterfalls around the island. You can go snorkeling, you can go swimming, you can lounge on the beach. Should I continue?
We only have a few minutes.
I know, like that's how many things you do in the Philippines besides scuba dive.
Right.
I will say it did recently on a global stage win best diving destination in the world.
Nice.
So I do highly encourage scuba diving in the Philippines. Yeah. It's just not for me.
Right.
That's all.
Well, for me, my unexpected travel moment happened in one of your favorite places. London. So London was my first solo international trip, and I was super excited about it. And then it quickly took a turn where I was like, I don't want to do solo traveling. Like, it's not for me. I'm supposed to be with Maui on all my travels from here on out. So what happened was March 2023, I went to London, and I had a friend living there at that time because she was doing like a work internship. So met her there. We had tea time. And then afterwards, we walked Bond Street just to kill some time before we were going to go to this live music show. And Bond Street is very, I would say it's somewhat similar to Beverly Hills Rodeo Drive.
Busy
As well. They have this department store called Selfridges, which is kind of like a Bloomingdale's because inside you have the Louis Vuitton purses, you have the Dolce & Gabbana, high-end luxury designer products. And I got pickpocketed right outside or maybe inside. Who knows? I let my guard down because I thought, London, and I'm in this beautiful neighborhood. I'll be fine. Wasn't really thinking user error, basically. I had my fanny pack behind me for literally just 5 seconds. And then after that 5 seconds, I realized, oh, shoot, let me move my fanny pack to the front. Only to come across, after leaving the Louis Vuitton department, that my bag was open. My Insta360 was gone. My Peak Design camera strap, that's $50, was taken. But luckily, it wasn't attached to my Sony camera that they could probably have pulled it out and me not knowing.
Yeah.
So I let my guard down, and that really took me off guard because I had so much love and expectation for London, seeing from your experience that, because you always talked about how much you love London, and it's a big city.
Yeah.
And I don't hear a lot about, or at least that time, I didn't hear a lot about pickpocketing
in London. Yeah.
Pickpocketing would happen. I didn't get pickpocketed in Egypt, which I hear a lot about. I didn't get pickpocketed in a lot of other countries that I went to that I always hear people say, be careful, be careful. So for that to happen, I was just like, it set the tone kind of for the trip. And that happened at the beginning of the trip too.
Yeah.
So I was like pretty down. I was lonely. I didn't have Maui to, comfort me or anything. And I just had to maneuver the whole trip. Just have that in hindsight.
It's a lot of things. You lost devices, which you've paid hundreds of dollars for.
Yeah.
You felt bad for yourself because you let your guard down, right?
Yeah.
Like Trizzy's very meticulous about keeping guard of her stuff, doing the tapping, making sure she got everything. Like that's the kind of person she is.
Yeah.
And then someone's all up in your personal space.
Right.
Like there's a lot of reasons that to feel down and out about that.
Yeah. And to kind of try and break the barrier of like solo female travel too.
Yeah.
And for me, and this is not for all solo female travelers. Like for that to happen to me, I was like, okay, I'm not meant for this life.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah. Right. So,
after like one incident.
Yeah.
You're the first time you do it.
Exactly.
That's tough.
And just talking about it, I'm like shaking again because I feel all that emotion that happened. So yeah.
Did you have the devices backed up or like SD cards or anything?
No.
Did you have a lot of content on them?
I did. I had my content from Bath. I had my content on the on the flight. Yeah.
So all you have was your phone and your camera content now, just not Insta360 content?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And Bath also happened like on the next full day that I had in London, right? Okay. So it happened quickly, and I had the content in flight. You know, me eating my meals, me having an empty seat next to me. And so, yeah, I lost all that.
Yeah.
And
as a creator, that's your work too. So now you're, you know, when that happens, it's like you lost your work.
Yeah. Right.
That's tough.
And I had told myself before we left my friend's apartment that I would back it up, or I would just leave the 360 there because I didn't feel the need to bring it.
Yeah, yeah.
But I figured if it's tea time, I could have the camera in front of us,
right,
showing like all our meals. But I never even took it out for tea time, so it was kind of like I was beating myself even more.
Yeah,
because of that.
That's tough.
Yeah,
I know. That's really hard. But that's not like, it's not like negligence on your part, you know. It's just anyone, like that can happen to anyone, unfortunately. Or it's like one of those situations like, oh, you never think it's gonna happen to you, right?
Yeah.
Which I hate those. Yeah. I hate thinking like that. Yeah. Because then it happens to you and you're like, oh shoot.
Right. And here's the thing. Okay, we had called a few friends afterwards, and then this friend was like, how did that happen to you? You're such a traveler. And I was like, shut up.
But that's, I mean, okay, that's like a whole episode. I feel like that topic could be a whole episode.
It can be.
Like, even professional travel stuff happens all the time.
All the time, yeah.
To quote professional travelers, people who are traveling longer than us, you know? Like, it's...
Yeah. That one hurt too, because I was like, I do travel a lot, but
you're not going to be perfect at everything you do. Like,
that's why we have this episode.
I literally missed, like, sidebar, I missed my flight from New York to London because I didn't, this was literally 2 years ago, you guys. This is actually the most embarrassing thing I'm ever going to admit. No one knows this except for my mother and Kate, who lives in London. The most embarrassing thing, I didn't know I had to go to the international terminal for my international flight. And I missed my flight, and they said, we were calling you for an hour over the intercom.
Was it an American
flight?
Oh, so that's what you thought. I see.
American Airlines. And I had to transfer at JFK. Y'all, it was literally the silliest thing. Like, so amateur level. And this was only 2 years ago. Embarrassing. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, no matter how many years we've been traveling, like stuff is always gonna go down, you know?
Yeah. We learned so much from it.
But then you went back to London.
I did go back to London.
Would you take another solo trip?
Depends where.
Okay, yeah.
And depends on what am I doing. Exactly.
Different circumstances or what. Yeah.
Totally.
I get that. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Wow.
Thanks for listening, guys. It was like another relief.
Yeah, like event. Yeah. Kind of event session. But, you know, that's what this episode is. Like the moments that were kind of pivotal that made us stop in our tracks.
Yeah.
And stop in our heads and be like, what just happened? Or did you just say that?
For sure.
Know? So,
yeah, when I went back to London in December the same year, I had bought like a new fanny pack that had better zipper. It wasn't even a lock. It was like I made the lock myself.
Oh, she made it herself.
Right? So yeah, I was like putting the fanny pack inside my jacket.
Yeah, she got reels on it. She got reels on it.
Don't mess with me, y'all.
Don't mess with her, yeah. Well, another example I have of a pivotal, unexpected travel moment. This one has to do with, I would say, the way you spend your money.
Yeah.
How you choose to spend your money when you're traveling, right? And maybe like physical abilities of people. So I told Trizzy the long version of this. I'm really going to try to shorten it.
I loved it.
For the podcast. Well, I was trying to set up the scene for her.
Yeah.
So anyways, I was traveling around with a Dutch guy in the Philippines recently. And this was just the first week we were in Bohol. We were going to a waterfall. We met a girl at the hostel. And she also went to the same waterfall, and we passed her, like our motorbike. She was leaving the waterfall. We were going up to the waterfall. And she told us, oh, it's like a short walk up to the top, right? But like a short walk in the Philippines, who knows what that can comprise of?
Right.
How steep is the walk? How muddy is the walk? How many mosquitoes are on the walk?
Yeah.
How many rocks
How
are
hot
on the
is
walk?
it?
Yeah. Is the sun going to go down on the walk? Is there shade on the walk? You know, all these things, right?
Yeah.
In the Philippines, everything's unpredictable. And so we get to like the entrance, which is governed by like locals, not necessarily like the government. And they're like, there's not a fee, but you can't take your bike up there, the bike that we were on, the street bike that we were on. We're like, okay, that's fine. But then there were some other locals that were like, we'll take you up because it's really rocky and muddy. We'll take you up on our bikes because our bikes are made for more like dirt biking type. And I was just like, me and the guy I was with, no, let's just walk up. It had been a long day. We were stressed. We were tired. The sun was setting, which I keep saying that because in the Philippines, the sun sets at 5 p.m., y'all. And like, we had to still drive back to the other side of the island, you know, like there were things we need to do. And then we're trying to climb this mountain to this waterfall, try to climb down the mountain to the waterfall and then spend time at the waterfall. I'm like, did we have time for all of this? I don't know, maybe not. So we're like, let's just start walking. I'm not wearing the correct shoes. I'm wearing like street Tevas, not my functional waterfall Tevas. So you guys know me. You know I love the brand Teva, and like literally it's the only shoes I brought to the Philippines are 2 pairs of Tevas. Wasn't wearing the right ones for this rocky, muddy, sticky terrain because it had raining on and off all day. And so we get halfway up. We didn't know like the exact distance. We didn't know like, oh, the hill was probably like a quarter of a mile, a third of a mile. We didn't know that. No one knows. We don't take out a measuring stick and measure it, right? So we're just walking. I'm literally slipping. And if you know me, you know I have bad knees.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know how much more of this I can take. And like, I wasn't really making progress up the hill because I had no grip on my shoes.
Okay.
And so my travel partner goes, you want me to run back and get the guys with the bikes? The guys with the bikes were charging 150 pesos per person. So we would each be on a bike. 150 pesos per person, 300 pesos. That's less than $6, right? This Starbucks was almost double that price.
Oh my gosh.
He goes, I'm going to run back and get him because like we're not going to make it up this hill. Like you're clearly uncomfortable. He was fine. He's like 1.5 feet taller than me. So he was like running up this hill and I'm sitting here struggling. So he goes back, gets the guys with the bikes. The guys with the bikes take us up the hill. They were having actually a lot of trouble, but at least we weren't walking in the mud anymore. And so they take us to the top of the hill. We walk all the way down because there's like 500 steps down to the bottom. And we're like, oh, you don't need to come with us. Thank you so much. Thanks for the ride. And then like, okay, we'll wait up here so we can take you back down. They ended up coming down with us anyway, which was nice of them. They took some pictures, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
We hung out at the waterfall for half hour. But I was just so frazzled and frustrated. I had to like meditate in front of the waterfall because I'm like, I'm not having good experience. It was getting dark.
Yeah.
And the guys take us back down the muddy hill. And it was tough. Like, we were scared the bikes were either going to fall or get stuck in the mud.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, we're paying them for a round trip, so we might as well just, like, let them take us.
Right.
So we did, and it was fine. I ended up paying them the $300 for both of us. Like, the experience was okay. You know, it was a rough day before. We get back to this hostel. We run into this girl who was like, oh, it's like a short little walk, right? The same girl. I left out a little detail, actually. I'm going to mention this only because this could be a cultural difference, but I'm still speaking from my personal experience. The guy I was with is Dutch. I'm American, obviously. The girl that we were talking to, and this will play into it, is German, right? So they're both Western European. So we get back to the hostel, and the guy, my travel buddy, and the German girl were talking, and she was like, oh, did you like make it up the hill? It's like such a short walk. And he was like, oh, well, Leah wasn't wearing like the right footwear. So we ended up getting like the guys with the bikes and like going up the hill. She's like, that tiny little hill? You actually paid 300 pesos to walk up that short hill? Why in the world would you spend your money on that? That's so silly. Oh my God, why would you do that? And I'm like, hold up.
Damn.
I was sitting next to her listening to her basically make fun of us the way I spent my money. And my travel partner, he wasn't really trying to like defend me or anything. But he wasn't also like speaking up either.
Right.
Because he didn't care to take the bikes. I said I would pay for them. So it's like, that's fine. But the way that she was kind of cackling at the way I spent my money, and the fact that like she didn't know I have knee issues. She didn't understand like I literally was slipping back down the hill. Like I had no grip on my shoes to walk up.
Jeez, yeah.
And so I actually retorted back to her and I said, you know what? The way I choose to spend my money when I travel is the way I choose to spend my money because it's my travel, and it was less than $6. And guess what? I can afford that.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a non-issue.
Yeah.
And then the smile kind of dropped off her face because I'm like, why are you cackling so hard?
Yeah.
Because like you don't know people's physical limitations.
It's different. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was an eye-opening moment because I didn't know if that's a cultural difference. Like, I don't know. Someone call me out here. If like, is that a cultural difference between maybe like a Western European and American? Like the way we do. I mean, we're all staying at a hostel, so we like to be on a budget. That doesn't mean if I'm staying in a $15 a night hostel, that doesn't mean I can't afford $6 somewhere else.
Right.
So
yeah,
I thought it was really interesting, and it stopped me in my tracks. And it kind of bothered me because, no, of course I would love to be able to sprint up this tiny little hill and like be okay, but I like my shoes wouldn't make it up the hill.
Right.
And I'm like, I spent way more money on other things that were not worth it in the Philippines. But I think it just goes to show like, I don't know, like how are you going to judge someone on the way they spend their money on their travel?
Yeah.
So it was just odd.
And if you've only known her for like a few hours.
Oh, hours.
Yeah.
Like in passing.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was odd.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be that. It could be the cultural difference in how they perceive.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Someone tell me what your thoughts are on that.
Well, great story. Both of your stories have happened in the Philippines.
Oh, yeah. Wait, is my last... Oh, shoot. My last one is about to happen in the Philippines.
Is it?
Too, yeah. Okay, the last one I have is more of a thing that I hear commonly, especially when traveling like South America, Southeast Asia, places where like a US dollar can go further, is when people call like an entire country or culture cheap.
Oh, right.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
And I try not to do it. Because from the get-go, even when I first heard that, when I first started traveling, when I first heard that from other people, 10, 15 years ago when I first started traveling, it sounded so wrong.
Oh, so you felt it from the beginning.
Yeah, I was like, this doesn't, like, you're calling that cheap. But what's quote-unquote cheap to us, let's just use it to, like a term I like to use is, like, less expensive, or where our dollar goes further, right? Much further. But what that is to us may be actually like affordable and the going rate for people in other country like the Philippines or Thailand or wherever else you're spending your US dollar, right?
Yeah.
So I made a post on, there is this coffee shop chain in the Philippines called Don Macchiatos that's like taking over the Philippines. It's great.
Nice.
What is it? Like 39 peso coffee, which is 70 cents. So it's less than $1 US. And actually my cousins did say to them that was cheap. That's a good price. But I don't know why it bothers me when people who have more, maybe like who are born and raised in the US call that cheap. So I made a post about it, and then one friend was like, oh my gosh, I wish everything was this cheap nowadays. And I actually like responded. I said, oh, I prefer to say that like our dollar goes further, because the reason Don Macchiato started, if you guys look it up, the reason Don Macchiato started is because the owners couldn't afford coffee at the time. They're like, well, why don't we make a coffee chain that everyone can afford?
Oh.
They were students. They were going through school. They were eating ramen for dinner for every meal.
Yeah.
Not just dinner, every meal. And they couldn't even afford a cup of coffee at some of the places they were going to. And so they were like, well, let's make something that's affordable. So their target market is like students, like people who they once were. But that's just one example I heard in the Philippines. I hear that all the time from like foreigners and people coming from like Europe and North America. I hear that all the time all over like Thailand and whatnot. Like when I'm in hostels and we'll be walking around looking for food, people are like, it's so cheap, it's so cheap, it's so cheap. I'm like, can you stop saying it's so cheap? Because this is the normal price that a local Thai person would pay.
Yeah.
this is the normal price that a local Filipino would pay for their, $1.50 meal. Like, that is a normal price for them. Like, for us, we could probably buy a few and we would savor every bite of it. But it just, like, irks me.
Yeah. That's eye-opening, especially because you told us that the owners of Don Macchiato said they couldn't afford coffee elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that, what is it, $1.50 could have been a lot for them.
Yeah.
Nothing to us.
Yeah.
So yeah, puts it in perspective.
Yeah, it definitely puts it in perspective. I'm like, that's like what's cheap to us. What's cheap to us is the going rate in other countries. Like, that's the rate.
Yeah.
And like for some of these prices, that's a few hours pay.
Yeah.
They got to work a few hours for that.
Exactly.
So it's different. It's difference in economies, difference in currency,
Yeah.
So I know it's not easy. I mean, it's not easy to avoid sometimes. Like, the word kind of just rolls off the tongue, right? And you want to say it out loud. But I try to be conscious of it. Even though I said, like, my cousin said it, and I thought that was kind of weird too. My cousin, who's a local in the Philippines, she was the one who's like, "Oh, it is so cheap," and I'm like, "Also, you're," but I will say, like, she's working for an American company.
Ah, I see.
So maybe she's making American money too. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't ask her about her pay. Also taboo. We don't talk about money.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. Yeah.
Okay. But it was just, I thought that was interesting. I've had a few people recently say that to me. Like, a few Americans be like, "Oh my God, like, it's so cheap there." I was like, "Oh." And I just respond back and I say, I prefer to say less expensive. Our dollar goes further. This is me personally. I'm curious to hear what you think or what you say, or if you think I'm just walking around like a chicken with my head cut off. So.
Well, that's what this platform is also here for. We're learning and we're teaching others, hoping that others will learn and teach others too.
Yep,
and it just branches off into, using more nicer and
inclusive language, which is what Rhino tries to do all the time on the app, on their social media.
Yeah.
And, I love the fact that the Travel Truths campaign came out. We're learning a lot from that. And that's, like we mentioned earlier, that's what inspired this episode. It's like, okay, what are some shocking moments or travel truths that we've had while we're on the road recently or not,
that altered our brain chemistry.
Yeah. And
seriously.
They did.
Yeah.
So we sat here picking through moments that are like, were pivotal.
Yeah. Because I really thought I could solo travel, but then that happened and I'm like,
you still can.
I definitely still can, but I'll just be like,
you didn't think you could at the time.
With my boxing gloves ready to swing. For sure.
Muhammad Trizzy.
Thank you to our sponsors, Rhino, for the opportunity to speak on our travel truths, and hopefully we shared enough of our experience and, allow people to open up about their travel truths as well.
Thank you for this platform, and check out the app wherever you are. There's tons and tons, like literally thousands of incredible experiences around the world from different travelers of all backgrounds, and it's so fun to discover new places, new things to eat, new things to do on the app.
I know, super fun. Thanks for listening in on the Ticket to Anywhere podcast, y'all. Have a good one. This is Trizzy at TrizzInc.
This is Leah at LA in Flight.
To find even more travel tips on budgeting, destinations, and our favorite items, sign up for our monthly newsletter, The Check-In, linked in the show notes or description.
This is the Ticket to Anywhere podcast. Thanks for listening.